Thank you, Marilena. I also would like to echo at the very start, in case I forget, the thanks that Dionysius gave to Marilena and to Lorenzo, but also to mention someone else who was very helpful in the project, which was Laura. And I think Laura arrived late. Some of you know her, some of you may not know her. The students at the back, I'm sure your teacher knows Laura, but she was a very important person to all of us, so thank you.
Thanks, Marie.
Now, as Marilena said, my name is Marie Walsh. I'm from Scotland, but I live in Ireland, and I teach chemistry to undergraduate students. So the first question I want to ask the students at the back, by show of hands, how many of you have fluent English? Okay, how many of you have understood most of what we've said today? No?
Quanti hanno capito qualcosa oggi?
Okay, now the next question I want to ask is, how many of you want to be teachers? Okay, so there's a saying in Irish, this is two Irish words, te a culla, which means have a nap, have a snooze, because if you're not interested in being a teacher, maybe what you won't get as much from the experience of the talks today, and I'm talking to the students particularly now, but you might get an appreciation for the amount of work that your teachers are doing, have done since they started learning how to teach, and if they are here today, they're teachers who know the importance of continuously learning how to teach, looking at new ways to teach, meeting with new colleagues and getting new experiences. In Ireland, for the project, in terms of the successful experiences and good practices, we kind of limited our final year to looking at these 5 themes. And the 5 themes included initial teacher education, continuing personal development for teachers, connecting chemical education research, which is different from chemistry research. Chemistry research is finding out new chemistry and new techniques in chemistry. Chemistry education research is finding out new ways to communicate those ideas. We looked at ways of implementing ICTs, or information communication technologies, and then we looked at the importance of networking and sharing experiences. So for all of the Italian teachers, for the partners, for the students, what I put as the title of my talk is Teaching at the Heart of Learning, because the teacher is vital, a vital component of the process. Now, a very famous Irish author, George Bernard Shaw, said the words over there about 110 years ago. He who can, does. He who cannot, teaches. So earlier on, Lorenda told us that teaching originally was a job for a woman. Women couldn't become engineers, they couldn't become technologists. George Bernard Shaw made it even worse. He said that if you were good, if you were innovative, if you were interested, if you wanted to advance, you can do anything. If you don't want to do any of those tasks, then you become a teacher. So I hope that our new view is a very different reality. In the 21st century, educators are expected to be at least all of these types of people. They should be adapters, communicators, learners, visionaries, leaders, models, collaborators, risk takers. So I think you'll agree that they've a lot of very important jobs to do. In Ireland, in terms of initial teacher education, and we've seen this across all of our European partners, the government agencies who are in charge of education have been standing back and reviewing what exactly happens during initial teacher education. In the lifetime of our project, we've had a change. We've had reviews of all the courses that produce teachers. We've had reviews of the benefits of concurrent versus consecutive teacher training. And the result of the reviews over the last 3 years is that some courses have lost their accreditation. Some courses have upgraded their curriculum, but the bottom line is it's no longer enough just to develop a course and not to prove that you've actually trained the person to teach the subjects that you're accrediting them for. So as the bottom point says, it's now a forensic process in terms of becoming a licensed teacher. You have to prove that you've actually undergone the training to be a good teacher, particularly for practical subjects like chemistry. If a person does manage to qualify to become a teacher, they're what's called a newly qualified teacher. In Ireland, they have to attend a range of workshops, and at the end of that process, they pass their probationary period and they become a registered teacher. What has been introduced in Ireland in very recent times is that all teachers have to have a licence. So within the lifetime of our project, we've seen a lot of changes. We've seen changes in teacher training, we've seen changes in the licensing process. And the word licence was never used before. So the Teaching Council is a government agency, and they're making sure that people are not just trained to teach well, but they are continuously developing their teaching skills. To keep your licence, you have to undergo continuous professional development, and you have to prove that you do it. One of the places that I am associated with which does this kind of professional development is called the National Centre for Excellence in Science and Mathematics Teaching. So like the rest of Europe, Ireland, in terms of successful experiences, has recognised that teachers need support, and that the support should be more than just, as we've heard, the laboratory for the students can be just fun with no meaning. The professional development can be fun, it can be a day out, it can be something different, but it has to have meaning and value for the teachers as well. So we have a very good professional development service, the PDST, and the PDST have a whole range of different supports that they give to practicing teachers. The PDST are not government agents as such. They are teachers who've stepped aside from their classroom experiences to help develop the professional status of other teachers. So it's not people who haven't actually experienced classroom teaching, which sometimes can be an issue in terms of education research. We've also recognised through the network, in terms of successful experience, the sharing aspect of meeting people from other countries. We know that Marcela from the Czech Republic is going to Brussels tomorrow for the Scientix conference. Are any of the Italian teachers going to the Scientix conference? No? The Scientix conference will bring together educators from all over Europe, again to share experiences. And, not just about their own classrooms, but also about networks they're involved in. The teachers depend on each other for support as well, so they have an association. This is the largest subject association in Ireland, the Irish Science Teachers Association, and they include special chemistry teaching supports. Then we have chemistry education research groups. About 15 years ago, there was very little chemistry education research in Ireland. Bunce and Robinson, whom you'll be able to read more about in the documents associated with the conference, they produced a lot of ideas that have informed chemistry education research. But the one thing that they say is that it should be real. That it's all very well for researchers to be working in universities, to be coming up with new ideas. Those researchers have to meet the teachers. And the teachers, as Dionysius showed in his presentation, the teachers can feed back whether or not the research would be valuable for them. Because sometimes you hear very good ideas. I was at a workshop last week in Ireland, and the first part of the workshop was presented by a chemistry education researcher. She's just graduating with her PhD. And she gave a lovely presentation. She gave some very good ideas about a project called Chain Reaction. But the teachers, as we were leaving the workshop, one of them said to me, has she ever actually taught in a real classroom? And apart from teaching practice, she hasn't. So chemistry education research is well and good, but we now recognise that the researchers must meet the real life practitioners, and the two of them have to bridge a gap which is what we hope the network has done for the teachers who are participating. So the research must be available to all, the results must be generalisable, but they must be accessible and they must be realistic. This is just a sample of some of the chemistry education research groups in Ireland, and some of them were involved with our project. And I'm not going to talk through all of it, but the ideas have a common theme that we've met at all of our network meetings and conferences. The ideas around misconceptions, the one about language and chemistry education. Tomorrow you're going to hear a talk from a German researcher who's actually just spent a month in Limerick, and she collaborates with this research group in the University of Limerick. But the one thing that we would say about all of them, when we come to the ones in Dublin, in the Middle Research Group, they are more likely to have met with the teachers and have real life experience of teaching. So that's a very important issue. In terms of going to workshops and conferences, there are also other areas where chemistry education research can be accessible, and one of them is through the journal Chemistry Education Research and Practice, which is produced by the Royal Society of Chemistry. So that's again an attempt by the Royal Society of Chemistry to bridge that gap between researchers and practitioners. For the Italian teachers, Chemistry Education Research and Practice is available, free access to anyone from any country. It's published free of charge, it's published electronically, it's available 4 times a year, and anyone can join the mailing list. So you then get an indication of when the next issue is ready to be published. And again, teachers of chemistry can share effective ideas through this medium. I want you just to take a little look at this paragraph, which is attributed to an American researcher called Judy Lanier. Now, you might be wondering if I've suddenly switched to Swahili or another language in the middle of the English. It's gobbledygook, it's a rubbish language. But I bet all of you could answer the 4 questions at the bottom. What is Traxylene? Traxylene is a new form of cyanter. You could answer the 4 questions, but you wouldn't understand what you were actually saying. So this is one of the themes that the people looking at language and chemistry are actually researching. Chemistry is a new language, there's a new vocabulary, and we have to be very aware that it is a new language and vocabulary for our students. This came from the Chemistry Education Research Group in the University of Limerick, and it's one of the themes of their research. We heard already about spiraling the curriculum. Elena talked about spiraling the curriculum and the use of her ICT resources. And this is another one of our research group themes. One of the things that we're looking at is inquiry-based science education and how if you engage students in this 5E cycle. If you engage, they then may want to explore. They should be able to develop explanations. Their explanations should become deeper, so that's the elaboration phase. And then there should be evaluation of the learning. And then you can go through that, as we saw in, is it Andrea? Your name? Alberto and Elena's work, that this can then be spiraled to different levels from the macroscopic to the microscopic. So we're saying the same things in all of the talks in slightly different ways. In terms of ICT and chemistry teaching, I'm not going to talk through all of this, but the bottom line about the ICTs and chemistry teaching is they'll never substitute the teacher. So we had our workshops, the pictures aren't very good, but real life teachers showed us the ICT resources that they had actually used with their students, and then we looked at different ways that they could be used. We developed lesson plans and we drew conclusions, and the conclusions are fairly similar to the conclusions that you heard from the Greek partner. They say that their resources vary in applicability, that simulations can be sometimes difficult to download and activate. Now those students still haven't raised their hands for anything, How many of you have computers? The students at the back. How many of you have laptops? Smartphones? Internet access? Just checking to see if you're still awake now. How many of you have internet access at home? Have Wi-Fi at home? So most of you. In Ireland, not all students have internet access at home. So the teachers thought that the resources were a very good idea for scaffolding of lessons. They were a very good idea for revision or for homework. But then the students were able to say, I couldn't do my homework because I couldn't access the internet. And that happens, and we know realistically in country areas in Ireland, a lot of them cannot access the internet. I asked a group of 17 first-year students 2 weeks ago, how many of you have internet access? And you'll probably be shocked that only 5 of 17 have internet access at home. Now we're not all poor and the recession has turned around, but still a significant number can't do this work at home. And we don't have extra time in school in our timetables to be able to use all of the resources. The students liked the resources until they got to the exam classes, and then they thought they took up too much time. They preferred to go back to their textbooks. So I'm going to skip past this. This I can't leave without mentioning the Royal Society of Chemistry and the Learn Chemistry website. This, for our teachers, is one of their most popular resources. Learn Chemistry from the Royal Society of Chemistry. I'm going to skip this. The teachers all like being part of the project. They like the idea of networking. They thought that that was one of the most successful elements of the project. Meeting other teachers, meeting experts, virtually meeting the partners from all over Europe, reading the papers and publications, and finding out that we're not alone. We're out in the western edge of Europe, but we've shared experiences all over Europe. So these are the Irish teachers who were part of our network, and we have other associates who joined the network. What was that, Bruce? I think Lorinda is gone, is she? 9 out of 10 of them are women. 9 out of 10. Look around you here today, majority women. What did they like about networking, and what should networking be, and why should we not let this project die after the 30th of November? We've now developed relationships and contacts. We're building partnerships that can support each other, and this should be continuous. We're sharing information, and it's a two-way street. You share, we gain, you gain. So the network is very important, and we hope that it will continue. It's been a very successful project from our point of view. So I can't leave you without wishing you, especially Italian people, Buono Molde. Who is this man? From Torino, Avogadro, and this is his day. So